about Bob Woodward's new reporting, specifically about Trump and Putin's calls. Have you had conversations with the former president about his relationship with Putin and what those calls entailed?
I honestly didn't know that Bob Woodward was still alive until you just asked me that question. That's what little I know about Bob Woodward is that he is, I'm going to use a word here. He is a hack. The guy's a hack. So have I talked to Donald Trump about his calls with Vladimir Putin? No. I've never had that conversation with Donald Trump in my life. But if Donald Trump, even if it's true, look, is there something wrong with speaking to world leaders? No? Is there anything wrong with engaging in diplomacy? Kamala Harris's approach has been to hide in a basement, hide from the American people, and hide from world leaders. And you know what that's gotten us? We're on the verge of World War III. It's a disgrace, and it's a complete failure of a foreign policy.
Let me just ask you one more thing about the Woodward book, because they're going to their favorite subject, which is, of course, Russia. They're alleging that you have had several phone calls with Vladimir Putin over the last 3.5 years. Can I ask if that's true?
That's wrong. That's absolutely wrong. Look, I know Bob Woodward. You know, I'm suing him because he used tapes and he sold the tapes. He didn't just sell the book. He sold the tapes. He's not allowed to do it. He even says in the tape that he's not allowed to do it. And he sold the tapes. And I just think he's the bad guy, so I thought I'd have fun with it. I think he's a very bad guy, but he's got a tremendous liability.
Some notable news about Donald Trump in this book. There are new details about former President Trump's relationship with Vladimir Putin. Specifically, the book reveals phone calls never before revealed between Trump and Putin, including a verbatim conversation where they discuss that Trump secretly sent to Putin scarce COVID testing machines for his personal use. This was at a time during the height of COVID where everybody wanted one of these.
The Putin story to me is enormously helpful because that's what the alternative is to Kamala Harris. It's a binary choice. And if you're not voting for Kamala Harris, you're effectively helping somebody who's got a really cozy relationship with one of the worst authoritarian leaders in the world right now. And I think that's the question that these voters, hundreds of thousands of them, who were kind of traditional Republicans, Stephanie, probably voted for George W. Bush, what do? Can they bring themselves to actually vote for Harris? And not just about opposing Trump, but actually voting affirmatively for Harris. And I think that story about Putin is the kind of thing that will speak to that demographic.
In this statement, we watched J.D. Vance try and belittle Woodward, and also the idea that he's not talking to Donald Trump about Donald Trump talking to Putin 7 times at least. 7 times at least since he's been out of the White House. He's had 7 secret conversations, and I call them secret because you don't hear Donald Trump yelling about his conversations with Putin on the stage, not the debate stage, because he will never get on a debate stage with Kamala Harris again out of fear. But what we see is a simple tactic. We watch J.D. Vance otherize Woodward as if he's not alone, as he's not important enough to know if he's alive or dead. How ridiculous it is to say that I didn't know that Woodward, probably one of the greatest reporters, investigative journalists of all times, to say that you didn't know if he was alive or dead before the reporter asked the question when he had just leaked, or not even leaked, let out information that Donald Trump had been speaking to Putin 7 times. Sure, you knew he was alive. Sure, you knew he was alive. Then the next thing you do is, after you try to otherize him to the point of death, you try and pretend that he's a hack. Hack is a word that has a very distinctive meaning, a meaning that, especially for writers, that you are bad at your job. You're not good at your job. And this damn question, this damn statement about Woodward can't be further from the truth. I mean, to pick a journalist, an investigative journalist, who has just cracked a story about your running mate, Donald Trump, talking to Putin, a dictator, a person who is guilty for committing crimes against humanity, a person who invaded another country because he wanted their space, their land, and you are talking about someone being a hack, it's funny to me. Well, you picked the wrong person in Bob Woodward, and I have tons of problem with Robert Upshur Woodward, but calling him a hack is something you cannot do. This man has written 21 national nonfiction bestsellers, 21 books, all of them, 14 of them are probably the best nonfiction bestsellers, especially on the presidency of our time, if not ever. Let's not forget that the world was introduced to Bob Woodward after his service in the Navy. In the Navy, you might remember that he's responsible for Watergate. Yeah, it was his investigative journalism skills that brought us that. Him and Carl Bernstein, which the Washington Post actually won awards for. And speaking of awards, you're probably talking to one of, if not the most, or talking about one of, if not the most awarded journalists of our time. Should I list them? Why not, Mundo? List them. The man won an award, like I said, for the Watergate coverage. Haywood Braun Award, Walter Bingham Prize, Sigma Theta Chi Award, George Polk Award, William Allen White Medal, the Gerald R. Ford Prize, Elijah Paris Lovejoy Award. He's award again, 21. 21. He's authored 21 national non-fiction books. And all of them were bestsellers. 14 of them #1. So this is the opposite of a hack. I can give you a hack, though. Donald Trump is a hack. Not for his writing, because he can't. He's a hack because he's done nothing except for crash businesses. This is a person who, had he done nothing with what he inherited, would have been worse than what he is now. That is to say that every business that he's done was a failure, from Trump steaks to Trump planes, Trump football teams to Trump's colleges. Everything this man touched was a failure. Even his time in office as president has been listed as one of the worst, if not the worst, presidents in America. That's a hack, not Woodward. So this idea that you didn't know he was alive says more about you than it does about the person you're trying to demean. I'm Mundell Robinson, and I'd be damned if I don't have a problem knowing that Donald Trump is out here talking regularly to one of America's greatest enemies, Putin. And for that crowd to sit there and listen and clap and act as if Donald Trump is doing diplomacy further reminds me of how dangerous MAGA is. Mundell Robinson, keep your head on the swivel.